Hey, Vortex Wolf here. Right now I'm putting together this video that you're about to watch, and I just want to say I appreciate those who can have open mind and open hearts on this, because it's a sensitive topic and it shouldn't be treated lightly, because it's a real problem going on right now. And I just hope for positive feedback, but again, everyone's allowed to have their opinion on things, but this is my opinion on it, and it's something that means a lot to me. So I hope you guys respect my opinion on that. And if you want, you can use my email or any of that to tell me your opinion on things, and I will try to respond. No, I'm not using this for clout or fame. I'm just trying to put this out there because, again, it's a really sensitive topic right now and it should be talked about more. Alright, thank you. Enjoy the video.
This is a beat every time one of my black brothers and sisters takes their last due to racism. But also, my brothers and sisters, I stand before you with a heart filled with love. For it is love that conquers all. It is love that binds us together. It is love that can heal the deepest of wounds, and it is love that will prevail over hatred and racism in the end. Now, as I look out into your faces, I begin to swell with joy, seeing that we all come from different backgrounds, ethnicities, and orientations, but yet here we are together. And that's what it's going to take to truly defeat racism. It is going to take more than just the black community or the white community, but it's going to take each and every community and every background coming together to reach that mountaintop that Dr. King once eloquently described on April 3rd of 1968. Now, my brothers and sisters, I also stand before you knowing that many of you may have fear in pertaining to this very moment once you heard this protest was being organized. But to that, I want to offer you these words once articulated by the late Nelson Mandela. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers fear. And I want to encourage you by letting you know that just by you being here today, although that little voice in your head told you you shouldn't come, although people within your community gave you negative feedback or told you it wasn't a good idea, just by you making the choice to stand for justice peacefully here today in Big Rapids, Michigan, you, my brothers and sisters, have already conquered your fears and you don't even know it yet. And let me say this protest today is just the foundation of our progress. For I plan on working with Dr. David Pilgrim to build upon this moment and create forums within our community so that we can have those conversations that make us feel uneasy. So we can have those conversations that put us in an awkward space when talking about racism, even here in our community. For it's time that we acknowledge that racism is still very much alive, even here in our very own community of Big Rapids. It's time to assess the elephant within the room so that we can learn from one another and continually make this great city even better for generations to come. And as I said earlier, this is a peaceful protest. Violence will not be tolerated. We will not loot. We will not destroy, but we will stand together. Well, separately, we are just a drop in the bucket, but together, my brothers and sisters, we are an ocean. This moment, it just seeing you all here, it means so much. So again, I thank you all for coming to stand for peace. And at this time, I would like to welcome to the stage to say a few words Dr. David Pilgrim, who is in charge of diversity and inclusion here at Ferris, and also the Jim Crow Museum. Thank you.
Not supposed to do that. It's been so long since I hugged somebody. And I thought everybody was wearing black. So I'm glad to see the mayor here. I'm glad to see the police chief here. I know he's worked hard to try to make this an inclusive environment, and I thank him. We can all do better work, and that includes me. So I want to read something. In Ecclesiastes 3:4, it says, "There is a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Today, we weep and mourn. We offer our heartfelt and heart hurting condolences to the family of George Floyd. Many of us know the sadness of losing a family member. It hurts like no other hurt. We too are hurting. I don't want to diminish our hurt, but please know that none of us are hurting as much as the Floyd family. On my way to campus, I heard Stephen Jackson, George Floyd's friend, say that he will be a father to Floyd's 6-year-old daughter, Gianna. That when the day comes, he will walk her down the aisle, and it ripped my heart. Life is short, and to have it taken from you in such a horrible way adds insult to death. His name is George Floyd. Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
We say his name because he had a name. We say his name because he was here, a living, breathing soul with hopes and dreams. We say his name because we don't want to forget him. We say his name because we don't want to forget what happened to him. Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
We are a nation divided, and things have gotten worse in the last couple of years. We weep for our nation. We weep for our nation when politicians feed racial hate for their own gain. We weep for our nation when our citizens hate each other. We weep for our nation because it takes the death of a black man to get us talking about racism. We don't have peace because we don't have justice. There is a time to weep and mourn, but there is also a time to dry our eyes, a time to stand up and say, this far, no farther. This far, no farther. Like our founder, Woodbridge Ferris, we are committed to making this world better, to ridding this country, this state, and this county of racism. My hope, my faith is with this generation of young people. They are tired of the injustice. They are tired of crying, tired of needing to cry. They are our best hope. There are so many people talking and arguing, so many words, so many people needing to be right, but not enough people are committed to doing right, to living justly. We can do better. We have to do better. Thank you, brother, for bringing us together.
Pilgrim, for those words. Now, before I introduce our next speaker, I just wanted to acknowledge the Office of Multicultural Student Services, the director, Dr. Matthew Chaney. Although he's not here because today is actually his birthday, he sends his solidarity and his support for this movement. And then there are also workers within the office that are here today, and I would like to thank them for coming and showing their support. And now please allow me to introduce the director over the Department of Public Safety, Bruce Borkovich. And let me say this before he comes up. When I met him yesterday, he met me with love and solidarity. He met me in full support of this endeavor. He didn't have to, but he welcomed me into his office with love, and we had a great conversation. They are here to support and protest with us, so we appreciate that. So now we welcome him to the stage at this time.
Thank you. When I met with Simon yesterday, I was so impressed with his sincerity and the vision he had for this. And So understand the police officers that you see here today in the area are not here to keep you in line. They're here to protect you. This is, I always tell people when I talk, this is our First Amendment freedom. And I always say with a wry smile, it might be a reason it's the First Amendment. It's pretty important. Our founding fathers thought this was pretty important. So our presence here today is to ensure that you have a right to peacefully express your emotions and your feelings and your position. So please, we all suffered a horrific event. Please don't look at the police officers from many different agencies here today as your enemy. We're not. So I was speaking with my new friend yesterday when he asked me to talk, and I was at a loss. This is a difficult subject. I stand here today as a police officer. We're here today because a police officer did an unspeakable thing. So it's awkward, it's tough. And I shared with him an email that I sent my police department a day or two after the event, just to make sure that the wonderful people who protect us here at Ferris understood my position on the issue. And I let him read it, and then I asked, should I read it today? And he thought it was a great idea. So it also keeps me from making a lot of mistakes and stumbling and saying and So I'm going to go ahead and read the email that we sent to all of the police officers at Ferris State University. Hopefully you've all had the chance to view the entire video that I sent to you. I have been in this business for 34 years, and I cannot recall seeing an incident like this. The officer who had his knee on the suspect is evil. There's no other way to describe it. I understand how police officers can make split-second decisions that are wrong in the, quote, heat of the battle. In this case, the officer clearly has the suspect under control, and for several minutes, the suspect is pleading to the officer, telling him he cannot breathe. It is sickening to watch as this man is slowly and intentionally killed by the officer over several minutes. Although the officer already lost his job, I expect he will lose his freedom for the remainder of his life. He deserves nothing less. It appears to me the officer in question might be a man of certain stature in that department, maybe a field training officer. Regardless, his lack of affect and willingness to address the condition of the suspect indicates to me that he is a sociopath. It is hard to understand how he became and remained a police officer. At this point, I suspect, but I am not convinced, that this incident is racial. That officer is a severely flawed human. I sometimes suspect he may have done the same thing to a white suspect. We will never know. I do not need to belabor the point that what this officer did was not only contrary to our training and guidance on the use of force as determined by Graham versus Connor, but also was a felony homicide. Another question remains. What were the other police officers present doing? Although I suspect the main officer was a sociopath, I find it hard to believe that the other police officers present were sociopaths, actively involved in a conspiracy to kill a citizen. Due to the young age of the other officer present, possibly of Asian descent, I am curious if he had been in his FTO, that's field training officer process, and perhaps the main officer was his field training officer. If so, it could partially explain, but not justify, why the young officer seemed to totally disregard the pleas of bystanders to address what the main officer was doing. So here is a key question. Are you prepared to intervene with another police officer, even from another agency, to protect a citizen from unapproved and unlawful harm? Every one of us needs to ask ourselves this question. Please understand that my expectation and the expectation of the courts is that you will, without hesitation, intervene in a similar circumstance to protect a citizen from another police officer. A failure to do so not only risks the lives of our citizens, but the career and freedom of any police officer who fails to intercede. I contemplated this scenario introspectively and knew immediately that I would have quickly approached the main officer and advised him, I'll take over. It is possible that the man, at this point, we didn't know much about the incident, but it is possible that the main officer fought with the suspect and perhaps was threatened earlier, full of adrenaline and anger to the point that he needed to be forced to disengage. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
If that officer then refused to let me or another take over, I would aggressively order him to move, and if that did not work, I would use all legal necessary force to remove that officer, regardless of the resulting fallout from other officers or agencies on the scene. At a certain point in this incident, it is obvious to me the main officer was not only acting contrary to training and policy, but he was actively committing a felony on another human. All police officers have a sworn obligation to intercede using all necessary force to stop such a criminal attack on another human being. This is also a good time to tell you again just how proud I am of all of you. I have been here for 7 years, and I have had numerous opportunities to observe how well you treat our students, staff, visitors, and the Big Rapids community. You continue to use your humanity, excellent training and judgment, and adherence to training and legal standards to ensure that our community is always treated with respect, even in difficult circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for putting this together. It's a heroic effort. It's very much appreciated in the community. I can't address police behavior as Director Borkovich did. I can only tell you that he's not alone in feeling how he's feeling. I'm sorry about that ringing. It must be me. But I do know that part of what positions our society for crimes of this nature is our failure for hundreds of years to deal with societal inequity, and that's my topic for today. You don't have to join me, but the flag's right over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remember that last phrase. As Americans, we have a notion of what constitutes justice. It does not include dying on the street of your town at the hand of a hostile person sworn to protect you. We view this death with outrage, and we ask why one of us must suffer this yet again. As Americans, we're taught our rights and privileges under the Constitution of the United States. But we also know that in many respects, these gifts are given selectively and are often not received in equal measure by key segments of our society. As Americans, we learn that we have the right to elect representatives, to see that our needs and aspirations are included when the laws that govern our society are enacted. We are sometimes dismayed that suppression of these rights seems to be deliberately and selectively applied, and that our thoughts may not be equitably shared when the rule book is written. If we're Americans of African descent, the laws handed down seem to be written by a different hand and interpreted by a different mind than those that apply to the larger population, and we believe that this is because we are seen as different, dangerous, or somehow flawed. If we are Americans of African descent, we cannot afford to trust assumptions about our safety and our opportunities, about how others sense our dignity, and we cannot join our society with the same graceful presumption of a proud history as those who are more favored and privileged. So today I propose to you that if we all want to believe in the pride of our nation and really celebrate the promise of its founding spirit, we must understand that the past, including slavery and Jim Crow in particular, is an intruder who continues to haunt the halls of our sacred family home, for that is what America is and what it should be. Today I suggest that you and I vow to reject the worn-out, toxic narratives, that's just how it is, get real, nothing's going to change, that persist merely to deprive some of us of our birthright, our liberties, and our dignity. Today I urge that we join together to channel the anger we feel at the violent act we all witnessed into some positive form, each of us, all of us, which can result in some kind of meaningful progress and help us shed the burden of bias and mistrust, which will inevitably otherwise continue to keep us from sharing in the benefits of our society. We need to get it as a nation that we truly do share our fates and that we really do stand and fall together. So what to do? Can we vote for candidates who will make changes? We bet.
Yes.
Can we run for office?
Yes.
I think so. I did it. Can we teach the children to respect and value equally the same and the different?
Yes.
Can we honor the hard work and commitment of those who help move our community forward?
Yeah.
Can we see that discrimination and the exaggeration of differences is getting in our way as a nation?
Yes.
Can we see that it is poison?
Yes.
Can we reject these notions in favor of a shared effort and better outcomes for our society? I think we can. So finally, we must we let our collective anger boil up again, cool down again, become a sad and pointless backdrop to daily life again? Because it's done that many times. If we truly seek a higher purpose together, why can't we look to the light of understanding, reason, and mutual respect and work together to gather that light and reflect it on those we love and work toward a more just society? Thank you.